Hello, so I'm going to continue to make this hat I'm making. So I started live and then I got a phone call, had to get off, and I have a meeting here in a little bit. So I thought instead of trying to go back live before my meeting, I'll just go ahead and record this and upload it so you can see the finishing, the way I finish and kind of the process. But we are making a hat. So we are doing the winter waffle pattern. I'm in the middle of my pattern now. I have to do the pattern for 40 rows and I am on row 20. So I'll just give a brief overview of what I've been doing. I'll show you, these are the 3 that I've just made. I have a mustard, I have a pink, light pink, and like a burnt orange. Actually I can tell you, so the mustard color is called saffron. It is saffron and it is a red heart. The pink, I don't remember exactly what it was called. It's just a light pink, and I believe that one is a Big Twist from Joann's, I think. And then this one just fell off. This one is Desert Glaze. So this one is Desert Glaze. It's kind of like a burnt orange. Oh no, that's not it. Never mind, cross this one. I don't have a hat out of this right now. I'm like, that's not the right color. I have terracotta. Terracotta is the one. But this one is, I love this yarn. I love this yarn, comes from Hobby Lobby. And that one is this one. I do like the Desert Glaze one though. It's a pretty color as well. Okay. So the one I'm currently making is also, I love this yarn, and this one is Kaleidoscope. And so I am doing the winter waffle pattern. The hat itself is 130 rows so that you can have fold up a brim. You wouldn't have to have as many rows if you just wanted without the brim. This one is one I made, but I haven't finished it yet, but this is what it'll look like. So you start it off with the pattern, you do the pattern for 40 rows, and then you just do the rest to 130 in the regular knitting, because this is gonna be folded up inside here so that you only see this on the outside. You could turn it around though if you wanted that winter waffle on the inside, if you wanted to make this a different color so that you could turn it inside out and have a totally different hat, you can do that too. There's a lot of things you can do with this. But I'm using my Addy and I'm in the middle of a pattern. So let me work on this and then we'll get back to like the beginning so you can see how we're doing it. But this is the winter waffle pattern. Let me get all the way back around. Okay, so this is gonna start our pattern. So to begin this pattern, when you're first starting your entire hat, you're gonna do 4 rows of, and I did cast on with waste yarn, and then I did 4 rows of just solid, and then we start the pattern. So we're gonna wrap around the back every 2. So we're gonna go around the back 2, then go over to the next 2 and wrap around the back, and the next 2 and the next 2 all the way around. And then we're gonna do 2 full solid again. The last row, we're gonna do plus 1 black. So that then the second row of the winter waffle pattern will be alternating the first. Then you do 2 solid again and stop right before the first black again. Do that. 2 rows plus 1 for the second waffle part. And you're just gonna do that around and around. So that is, we're gonna start this. Let me go 2 solid. Oh, we have a knot. Let me get the knot out. All right, 2 solid. Then we're gonna start right before the black, first black. We're gonna go around the back of the first 2 black, and then the 3rd black and the first white. And we're just gonna do that all the way around, behind the back of 2. And we're not skipping anything. We're just going around the back. 2, all the way around, back to the 3 black pins again. Because that is the 3 black pins are 1, 2, 3 pins. So you always start there with your patterns, because that's how your counter counts. It counts starting with the first black pin. Okay, so we made it back. Now we're gonna go 2 rows of solid. And then +1 here for our last row. So now we're starting with the 2 and 3 black pin, just so we're alternating on that waffle. So we're gonna do this all the way around, and then we'll end on the last white pin and the first black pin. That will be our last of this row. And then we're gonna go around 2 full, but stop, 2 regular, just 2 plain, but stop before the black again. So the second, or the first row will be -1, because you're not gonna go back to the black. You're gonna stop on the last white again. Okay, so we're gonna stop before the last black again, take it out, we're gonna go around back of each one again. So we just keep repeating this pattern until we get to 40 rows. Once we get to 40 rows, then we're just gonna do plain knitting, no pattern, until 130 to get our stocking hat. So we are getting close to the no pattern section. Okay, we made it before the first black, so we're gonna go 2 solid again. And then go past the first black pin and do the pattern. And we're gonna have one more group of pattern again. So we're gonna go 2 solid and then do the last pattern section. And then we'll be good to go for plain, no pattern for the remaining 90 rows. Then you don't have to think so hard and pay attention to what row you're on. It's not hard, but sometimes if you're not paying attention, you're like, now did I go around twice for 2 plain rows? I did mess up one time and got off of count and did like an extra row of plain, and you can't tell on the hat. So you don't have to completely restart it, because I'll show you on these hats with the way this pattern goes. Let me just finish this row so I know where I'm at, and then I'll show you. Almost there. All right, and then the rest now will just be solid for 130 rows. So, the way these hats are though, you're not gonna really be able to tell if there's like an extra solid in here. I mean, if you really look, maybe you could tell it's just a tad bit bigger on one line. I don't even remember what color it was that I accidentally messed up, but I was like already in the middle, and I had quite a few of these rows already. And I'm like, okay, because I went back and was counting and realized I messed up. And I'm like, I'm just gonna try to go and see how it's gonna end up, but I don't wanna have to completely restart if I don't have to. So I thought I'm just gonna see what happens. And on that hat, you could not tell. Again, I don't remember which color, the one that I did, but you couldn't tell because one extra row, because I just went ahead, it probably then would have been like one extra row of not solid. It still would have had a pattern, because I went back and then, you know, kept repeating the pattern as usual. So it still has the regular pattern, and it just had like one of these had like one extra row of just the plain without the pattern in it. So you couldn't tell at all. Nobody's gonna know. Plus, you know, when you're homemaking things, you make mistakes sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there was somebody, I'm in a lot of different craft, like on the Book of Faces, a lot of different craft groups. And one of them, somebody had made something beaded. And it wasn't like the silicone beads that I usually use for my like keychains and stuff. It was like one of those, like, it was either like the glass beads, like, you know, tiny seed beads. It was like the glass beads or acrylic beads, but it wasn't like the silicone, or yeah, the silicone ones. And they had made this pattern of, and I don't remember what it was on, if it was like a necklace or a pair of earrings maybe, but they were like, you know, does this look bad? I messed up here, you know. And when they pointed it out, because it had like a color pattern in it, and when they pointed it out, you could tell they showed you where they messed up, and then you're like, oh, now I see it. But had you not known, you would have never known. And, you know, we were saying, no, it still looks fine, nobody's gonna know. And somebody said they were a part of, I believe it was Native American culture. And they said in the Native American culture, they purposely make mistakes. They purposely have something in their pattern that is not perfect, because that show, and don't quote me because I'm not gonna say it correctly, but basically what they're saying is that none of us as humans are perfect. And so our designs aren't going to be perfect either, because we're all human and we all make mistakes. And so all of their artwork has mistakes purposely put into it. Probably sometimes, you know, they're just accidental mistakes, but they purposely make it not perfect to show in their artwork that humans are not perfect, that, you know, in the higher power, we all are not perfect compared to the higher power. So I thought that was really cool. You know, so if you make mistakes when you're doing art, it's okay, because we're human, you know, and mistakes happen. Of course, does that mean if I've made a mistake and it's super obvious in something, I'm not going to go back and fix it? I am. You know, if I get off on count, or I've done, you know, something that's like, yikes, I will go back and I'll take the whole thing off and redo it. But especially if you're doing like a pattern like this that's not noticeable to, you know, a normal regular person checking out your artwork, and it's not going to mess up the integrity, you know, it's still going to be a hat, even if it has, you know that there was a mistake in it, but nobody else is. And like I said, at this point, I don't even remember what color. I know it was a hat, and I know I had a pattern in the hat. I don't remember if it was this pattern or not, but once I did the whole hat, you could not tell that there was any mistakes in it. You know, so it was perfectly fine. I love making these hats on the Addy. So much fun. There are a couple different, well, there's more than just a couple. There are a few different types of knitting machines that you can get. This one is the Addy, ADDI. It is linked in my bio. You can also go to www.overtherainbowks.com and you will find my link tree and see things that I sell. But if you're interested in a hat like this and you have like a specific color in mind, I think I am. Yeah, my watch thinks I'm working out because I am turning this. But if you have a specific color in mind that you want me to make you a hat, you can just go to the custom winter waffle and you can write in there. Speaking of, I'm not sure, I think there's a note section. I'll make sure there's a note section in that. But you can go in there and request like what color you want. Or if you've seen me make one, like if you like how this kaleidoscope yarn one worked out, you can put kaleidoscope, or you can, you know, tell me different colors and I'll show you some different options of yarn I might have. So we are now on row 82. We're going to 130. But once your yarn reaches almost the bottom, you want to pull it up and kind of wrap it around, because you don't want it dragging. Because once it starts dragging, then it can pull stitches weird. It can make the stitches not, you know, not as uniform. But I can get a whole hat out of a skein of yarn. And sometimes, depending upon, I can sometimes get like a headband, or sometimes I do like a ear warmer. I don't have any of them up here, but an ear warmer would be a thicker one that would still go like a headband type around your head, but it's going to keep your ears warmer, but it's not going to be a full hat. So depending upon like the size of the skein I have, sometimes I can then make an ear warmer out of what I have left, or like a headband, which would just be, you know, a smaller. The headbands I make on my smaller machine, which is right here. It's also an Addy. If you're looking at knitting machines, I do have knitting machines linked in my link tree, which is where like my website and things are too. And I think you can get an Addy pretty cheaply right now on the Zon, which is what I have those links on there. Now the Addy's the more expensive one. The Centro is cheaper normally, but the Addy I've never used an Addy, but from everybody that I've seen that ever makes these, the Addy is pretty much the best one out there. It's going to last longer. There is a Centro, which is generally cheaper. It still thinks I'm working out. But it's not gonna last as long. And the Addy is from Germany. The Centro's from China. And you might also, on other like discount sites, you might find other machines with different names. Most generally, those are also Centros. They look exactly like the Centro, but they just have a different name on them. It's like the same machine, just different people buy it and put a different name on it. But the Addy's from Germany. And from everything I've gathered from everybody that's had anything, this is the more superior machine. If you can afford a little bit more expensive, it's going to last you longer in the long run. It's going to be easier to maneuver. It's going to just work better, from what I've gathered from other people, because that's when I was researching about what knitting machine I wanted, everybody suggested the Addy and said, you know, you could do the same type of thing with the Centro, but generally they're not gonna last you as long. So the Addy is worth being a little more expensive. All right, we are on row 109 going to 130, so we're getting close. And then I'll show you what we do when we get done. We are on row 117 now. Only 13 more. Not quite on the ground yet, so we don't need to tuck it up yet. And 20. Getting close to the bottom, so let's tuck it up just a little bit more. Five more. Okay, that's 129. So once we get back to the black, we only have one more row. So then you gotta kind of have to keep an eye on where the black is, so you end right before that. We're gonna cut off a nice sized tail that we can work with, and I'll show you that in a minute. And you can, on this, you'd be able to cast off on the machine if you want, but for me, it is not easy because I am left-handed. And so this is my left hand, and if I was trying to cast the way the machine goes, I have to go this way, and it's hard to use your needle to pick up going the wrong hand. It's not as hard if you are right-handed because that's the direction you're going. So what I do is I get just a different color yarn and we're gonna cast off. What that means is we are just going to start where we ended. I am going to hold the yarn with 2 fingers until we get started, and it kind of holds it in there. And then I'm just gonna go all the way around until my yarn runs out. My waste yarn will be taken off the project. It just gives me, it collects and ends the yarn so that it doesn't start unraveling my project, and I can get it off with the needle and loop, gather up the end stitches without having to worry about it unraveling. Again, this is easiest if you're left-handed. If you watch other people, and this one doesn't matter if it goes past the blacks, I just go until it's almost done, and then I don't have like a bunch of extra yarn hanging. And then I'm just gonna start turning it, and it will fall off the machine for the most part. There might be a couple that catch, but like sometimes the last one catches a little bit, but then you're gonna have your whole project. So let's turn you a little bit. And then I'm gonna sit back and finish this one. Let's bring you a little bit closer. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put this up here. Now, you wanna make sure, pull your project right side out. You can tell because the stitches look different. I don't know that you can really tell on here, but this is the inside of it where they're all just like horizontal stitches. And on the outside, they're V's. They're more V stitches. And this is the solid part, and then here's my pattern down here, so you can see the contrast. You could just do a whole hat of solid, especially when it's the variegated yarn, meaning it's the different colors on it, because it's gonna still have a bit of character compared to like the plain color. So you can see like this is the part that is just regular knitting, and this is the pattern. But on this thing, you know, with the variegated yarn, it's still gonna have character, even if it's just plain like this. But I still like the winter waffle pattern. And so then you're just gonna kind of give your project a pull. It kind of unlocks if the stitches were tight or anything. All right, and then what we're gonna do is get our little plastic needle. The plastic needles are easier than, they're gonna have, most generally the plastic ones are gonna have the bigger eye of the needle. So you're gonna wanna thread your needle with your project yarn on either side, and you're gonna find the top stitch of your pattern. And so you are going to go around then and just pick up each stitch from around your pattern. So I will show you here in a minute. Let me get a few gathered. And you're just gonna pull it through. So you can see the pink is my waste yarn, and the top stitch around is the one I'm grabbing. So I'm going to grab each one around, and that's gonna keep my project from unraveling when I take off the waste yarn. So we're just grabbing the top of each one, and then we kind of pull through. Keep going all the way around until we get to where we started. But like my waste yarn, you wanna make sure your waste yarn contrast is a different color than your project, or you're gonna have trouble finding that top stitch. Believe me, I have done that before. And like, why did I use that color? That blends in too much. But there's no pink in this yarn, in my project yarn, so it shows the stitches fine. So this is where the end of this one is where I'm going to. So I have a little bit more left to do. hats are pretty easy projects, and I'll show you what you have to do. You can also make like stuffies, like, you know, little stuffed animals and things on these machines. Of course, those are gonna take a little more work because those, you're gonna have to like put together pieces and things like that. Okay, I think we got to the front. Okay, so now we can pull off our yarn. So this is the bottom part of it. We're gonna look for the one that is at the top of our project, which is here. On one side, it's super simple. It's just going to rip right out. So I'm just gonna gather as I go around, and this one just simply rips right off. Now, if we did our job right and gathered the top stitch of each of our project, then it's not gonna unravel once we get past the pink. So take that off, and I reuse the waste yarn over and over. So here we've gathered, you can kind of see that I've gathered, there's the yarn going through all those top stitches. That keeps it from unwinding. I do still kind of go around just to make sure I've grabbed all the stitches. If I don't, I can go back and grab some. But if you do it that way, you're not gonna miss any. So now this side will cinch up. But I've got to go back over here to the other. This is the beginning of my project because this is where I started the pattern. So again, I'm going to find the project color. And we're going to go around the top and grab each stitch again. I'll show you. See that red on that beginning part here? That is my top stitch. So I'm going to grab that. This white is just my waste yarn. So we're just gonna go right past it, get it out of the way. And I am going to go around and grab this top stitch all the way around this one as well. Now, this was my beginning one, so I would have the waste yarn for this one, but on that other side that I just did, that's the one that I wouldn't necessarily have to have waste yarn for, because if I wanted to just pull it off the machine. It does take a little more talent to do that, because if you accidentally miss the stitch as you are going around, your whole project will unravel and you will have to start over. Again, I'm left-handed, and so I have done it that way and taken it off the machine. And again, that's what you're doing. You're just gonna have to go around and under each stitch before you completely take it off the machine. But for me, it's not easy being left-handed, because it's using my right hand is how I have to take it off. And so it's more awkward for me. So it's much easier doing this. It does, you know, take a little more extra time because I'm doing it this way than just doing it right off the machine. But it's easier because I know I'm not going to, it's easier for me to grab the stitches this way, being left-handed. Because I have watched people and they say, oh, you can just, you know, grab it right off the machine and don't use waste yarn for this project or whatever, you know, on the top. And I'm like, I have to use waste yarn every time because I'm left-handed. So if you have people watching you that are left-handed, make sure they know that it's easier to use waste yarn. You know. Okay, so this one, because it was my or at the beginning of my project, you've got to go over and pull, and you've got to kind of pull the first row through before it will release, that you can just then unwind automatically. So this one takes an extra step that you have to just kind of go through and pull off the first row. Once you do that though, then it will completely unravel again like the other. It just takes that extra step. And then sometimes they kind of want to make their own little knot here at the end, so you just have to, it's just the way it like winds it in there. You just have to pull it through, and then it'll all come down. That's it. Okay. So I'm just gonna look real fast and make sure it looks like I got all the stitches again, the top stitches. And again, it's just holding, you can see the string going through, and it's holding them all. Okay, so now for these patterns, now if you don't have a pattern on it and it's just simply the basic knitting with no pattern, you can decide which side you want out. When you have a pattern, you know the pattern's going to be on the outside. So you're going to take the opposite end, you're going to find where your string is, you're just going to kind of hold it, and you're going to go to your pattern side and pull the solid side through. And that's now going to be the inside of your hat. So you're just doubling it up. So once you kind of pull it through, then you're gonna find the inside that you've just doubled up. You're gonna find the loose end and pull it tight. Ooh, excuse me. You're just gonna cinch it up. You're just cinching that end. And then you are coming up here where your pattern is, find your loose yarn there, and you're gonna cinch this end up. Now here's from the inside that you've cinched, and here's from the outside you've cinched. All you're gonna do then is you're gonna tie the two together. And that's gonna tie your hat inside itself, so that the inside liner part will not come out. And I just give it a nice few amounts. I do like 5 knots, just because I want to make sure it is good and tight and good and knotted in there. And then you don't need all this extra. You're just going to kind of weave that in. So I'm going to cut off some of this so I don't have just so much bulk. Okay, now where did my... And then I always do this. I lose, oh, there it is. I lose my needle. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put these two ends now back on my needle. And we're gonna poke them through the center of your hat and pull them out the other side, which would now be the inside of your hat. So I'm just gonna pull on the ends of each one, and you kind of hear the knot. Normally you hear the knot, then kind of pull through. Just go back and forth. There it goes. And I kind of do that just each one until I hear the knot kind of pull through that top part. And then you're gonna wanna go inside out, and you're just gonna go between the two layers, which are now tied together, between the two layers to just kind of hide the end. So you wanna make sure you're not going through the outside of your hat. And I kind of then just trace like a little section of the V, just to kind of, so I'm going in and out a little bit. just to make sure it's kind of in there good. And then I find one and kind of go back up and go through a little bit. And then I'm gonna just trim off the ends. So then I just kind of make sure it's doesn't look terribly like pulled, that it looks more natural, so it doesn't look like it's a weird thing that somebody might try to pull through, because then they might have a problem and have extra strings they don't want inside their hat. But most people aren't going to turn their hat completely inside out anyway. And this just gives. Then you turn it right side out. You have your waffle pattern. This part you just fold up to your brim. And you have a cute hat. And I love the ones with the variegated yarn. So you have all those different colors. It really makes pretty designs in it. So there is your hat with the winter waffle pattern. If you want this one, or you have other, again, this one's a kaleidoscope color, but if you have a hat preference that you'd like this design, but you have a specific color in mind, you can go to my website, www.overtherainbowks.com, and purchase the custom winter waffle hat, and then tell me what color you are looking for. Make sure your email is in your order so that I can contact you and figure out, you know, exactly what color you're looking for. Goodness, excuse me. Or if you have any questions, they're right there in my link tree is also like my email. So anyway, that is a hat. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.